All right, guys, it's time for another episode of Every Widow Thing. My name is Whitney. We've got Keira, Holly, and Lacey here, ready to share more stories and widow wisdom.
Hi, everybody.
You want to say
Hi. Before we get started, can I say something?
No.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
Yes.
I just want to give a shout out to my dear friend, Joan, and my friend Amy, who Joan did our logo, and
Our
Amy
amazing
took
Every
our
Widow Thing logo.
beautiful photos that make us look good.
Yay.
So,
Yes,
Thank you, Joan and
Amy. Yeah,
Yay.
it's great to have friends with talents, which I guess everyone has a talent, but sometimes you don't really want them to use it on you. But photos and logos, those are
I don't know
really
where you're going
awesome.
with that.
I really
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
Listen, I am jet lagged because I just took a whirlwind trip with the kids because it's starting to be summertime. Everybody is figuring out what to do now that school's out and the kids are free and bored. And so we thought it might be fun to share some travel stories with you, but also let you know what it looks like now that you're just one parent, you're solo parenting. I put something on Instagram, on our Every Widow Thing Instagram recently, and it's a mama bear trying to get her cubs across the street.
Yeah, I love that.
And,
That's hysterical.
You know, another term comes to mind, herding cats. It's like you get one kid situated and you run over to get the other kid, and then the kid that you thought was situated starts wandering off. So it can be very difficult when you're outnumbered.
And
for
sometimes
sure.
if you have an only, you're having to be the kid.
That's right.
You're having to be their siblings.
That's
so
right.
You have to entertain.
It's exhausting.
It is very exhausting. And
Now it's
so-
easy. They just game and they ignore you. So
Right. Well, mine weren't gaming, and they were hurting my feelings a lot on this trip. And I think that's hard when you don't have, if I don't have my partner with me to look at the kids and go, don't speak to your mother that way, or just give them a look like you better straighten up. You know, you're having to
it's true.
be your own advocate. And it's hard, especially I think as moms. I have a lot of mom guilt. Even though I didn't kill my husband, I mean, he's not dead because of me.
I do too.
I have a lot of guilt. So I let things go that should not be let go, you know?
We all, I mean, we
I think
all
we
struggle
have
with
to.
that.
I think part of it is exhaustion.
Yeah, I'm too tired.
3
And-
hours in and my kid's still gaming because I'm too tired to do anything else. I'm like,
Exactly.
so, you know, when you're always having to be on.
Right.
I mean, so
Well, we just took a trip to Europe. We did London, where my husband and I used to live, and that was fun, but emotional because I haven't been back to that place since we left, you know, since he's been gone. So
did you go back to some of the old haunts?
yeah,
when you guys went?
I took the kid because the plan was always to go back over there with them and show them where we used to live and the neighborhood and
Favorite pub. And
yeah, exactly. So I did that, and
They
Hunter's
remembered
brother,
you.
Yeah, they were like, Whitney.
Oh my God, she's back.
My English accent came back. My kids were like, "Why are you talking like that?" I go, "I don't know."
You and Madonna.
Yeah, that's right. It just happened. But one of the things that I was going to share with you guys is like I said, I get my feelings hurt because I don't have backup. And one of my kids, he will remain nameless, but I just said that he's a boy. Anyway, everybody's on edge. I don't know about you guys, but I get trip anxiety. And especially in another country when they don't speak my language, I'm freaking out constantly. And so I'm on edge. We're
It's
trying
just
to
another variable, you know, that
Right.
you have to tackle.
And I
Yeah.
like to make sure that people hear me and understand me. Right. I mean, I want to communicate. I know.
I just want to be heard.
I just need to be heard. So we're at the Louvre and I'm on edge and I don't have my partner there to kind of be the calm, you know, person in this scenario. And the kids are getting worked up because the tickets aren't going through the way that they should. And I'm getting all worked up and there's a line getting backed up now because we're not going through the styles. And I'm like, just go, go. And one of my kids blows up and uses some choice words You know,
They learn those.
I don't fucking know. Anyway, and I was mortified. I was hurt. I was mortified and angry. And we get past the turnstiles, and I turn to the kid, and I'm like, you know what? I channeled my husband, right? And I'm like, you don't get to talk to me that way. And then I did the whole guilt thing. I have taken you on this amazing trip, and you're cussing me out at the Louvre. You know, and the phrase that he had used was something like, I'm effing over this, or something like that. Because I can be difficult to travel with, because I have expectations of how perfect I want the trip to be. And then when things go awry, I kind of, you know, am not my best self.
You can't have expectations.
Trip expectations.
I know. No,
yeah.
you really can't.
Those need to be lowered when you're traveling by yourself with children. They need to be just way
it's hard.
low.
It took me a few years, but I finally leaned into that. But in the beginning, I wanted everything to look like it would if Oliver were alive,
Yes.
because it made me feel better on some level.
You want to, and you're trying to create. I mean, for me, I'm like, oh, I want to create these amazing memories. And also, a lot of us have seniors that are leaving. And so you're thinking, this is our last opportunity to have this amazing family moment. And, you know,
I think it was all about making up for the loss, you know, and I'm still doing that. But it's like, how can I make their life, like, how can I make up for it? How can I make it better? Let's take a great trip. Let's, you know, just make sure they're still having the life that they would have had, kind of like Lacey was saying. They're still having all those experiences and all the things that they would have had if we hadn't lost their dad. And that has been a real struggle and continues to be a struggle, I think, because you really do have to reframe your expectations.
I think what's hard about that is I did that, or am doing that. And now I feel like I'm backtracking, because I was like, whatever you want, wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do.
right.
And
Now you want to set some boundaries.
Now-
More ice creams later.
yeah. So, yeah, you know, I feel like I'm backtracking and like trying to reel it in a little bit.
Because I think we have kids that are turning into young adults, and suddenly you're like, oh, we might have missed a value or two in there when we were sort of overindulging as an overcompensating tactic.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're like, well, I don't want to raise a brat. I think we've all had what you were saying. I've certainly traveled with my kids where we're literally in the most exquisite location with, you know, blue crystal water and a beach, and, you know, they can go up and get whatever they want to eat. And somebody seems ungrateful or has a meltdown or, you know, takes it out on a sibling.
Cusses you out in the Louvre.
And as a mom, you're just like, how is this possible that you're having a hard time in this amazing environment? But it really does just come down to, like, whenever those feelings creep in, we as the single mom are the only person that they can take it out on.
I know, but sometimes
We're the punching bag.
Well, I think it's okay to hold your ground like you did, Whitney. I mean, you have to stand up to them. They can't just run over you.
Oh, yeah. But I
Ryder
felt
made me-
guilty the rest of the day. He missed seeing the Mona Lisa because he got mad and walked out. And then
Well, that's on him.
I know. I said those things to myself.
Google
By the
it. You
way-
can see it on the computer.
Yeah.
By the way, I bet a lot of people who have two-parent households will say that happens to them too.
That's true. And that is
So-
something that I feel like my brain will do and make it about being a widow. And really, it's just parenting.
It's just parenting
Or just
teenagers.
normal.
It's hard. But you know, Ryder told me something on our last vacation. We just got back from the mountains, and he said, I was trying, like how we're all talking about, I was trying to make it perfect because it's the last one before he goes to college, and there was just so much pressure on me. And the mountains, it's not my favorite. I like the ocean, but I wanted to do what he wanted to do, go hiking. So we go, and he said, you know what I wish? I wish you would just have fun. Like, stop trying to make it perfect. He could feel it. And I was like, oh. So I did. I stayed out all night and danced at this dance party in the middle of the street and Telluride.
Was he with you?
No,
Oh,
he
that's
left
great.
at like 11 o'clock and I stayed out. And I came home. It must have been like 2. I don't know. I stayed out with some friends and he was like, wow, look at you. And that's when it got better.
Yeah.
Because I think all those years, I think he really wished I wasn't stressed.
Right.
All that time I'm trying to make everything perfect. He was like, I wish you had just chilled
Exactly.
and not
You
been
have
so
to-
uptight.
Yeah.
But it's hard because you know, like Keira was saying, you feel like you're making up for what they're missing. And then I realized all along he just wished that I could relax.
Well, and it kind of reminds me of like I saw a cat meme the other day and it was like, I bought these expensive cat toys, but a paper towel fell on the floor. And that's what he's interested in, right?
Yep.
The kids, we think they have to have these amazing monumental memories. And really they're just happy with the paper towel on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. But.
Well, I'm going to try it out. No, but you know what I'm saying?
I get it.
The expectations, just like you said, I finally had to give myself a talking to because it was ruining the trip for me. I was getting my feelings hurt because the kids want to go.
Yeah.
They don't want to hang out with me. They're in freaking Amsterdam, where they're legal to do everything, and they don't want me hanging around. And so I've kind of started feeling sorry for myself. And then I'm like, no, this is a moment of freedom. What would I like to do? I wish there had been a dance party in the middle of the street, but I had a glass of wine at the bar. And, relaxed and hung out and did my
sounds
Wordle.
good too.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point that comes up. I know when I lost my husband and travel really looked different, I did seek out traveling with other families and friends because you do want to be able to go have a drink at the bar or, go out to something, leave the kids in the hotel room. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be safe and have a good time. You want to have other adults around. I mean, it's not fun to just always be parenting on a trip. It's your vacation too. And I had to kind of like what Lacey just did and Telluride. I had some moments where I was kind of like, hey, it's my vacation too.
Right.
I need to have a break and go have some fun so that I can show up tomorrow and, carry on with the trip. But it is kind of like I always kind of had to seek out who wants to go to the mountains with me or who wants to go to the beach with me? And is there another family that my kids like their kids? And travel just started to look more like that. Whereas before it was more just like our, immediate family. I definitely didn't, want to be alone on a lot of those trips.
And it's also hard, if your kid's little, when Ryder was 6, who could babysit him? I can't get a break.
Right.
If I go alone, which most of them, we had quite a few that were with friends. This one couple friend, we did quite a few with them, Peter and Jeanette. But the times we did it alone, I was like, well, I guess I won't be getting a break. And you can't drag your kid to the bar. So it's
Right.
I've
that's
definitely
not
done
possible.
out on the hotel balcony, just me, myself, and the bottle of wine. And,
Hey,
they're watching
bathtub.
They're watching a cartoon or whatever, or they're asleep. And I'm just kind of out on the balcony, here I am with my bottle of wine.
We did.
I didn't drink the whole thing.
Well, then I'm disappointed in you.
We did vacations with, my friend Joan, my best friend, that she has 2 boys the same age as my youngest. And we traveled with them. And then we traveled with my sister and her family, which my nephews are around the same age as my boys. And we did that. We've done that all the time. I mean, we still do that. We're going to Europe in a couple of weeks together. And it's nice to have them. Well, it's been nice until all the boys are now pretty much grown. But it was nice having.
Who did you go to Cabo with right after your husband died? I think
that
it
was
Christmas?
With Joan
Was her? Okay.
and her family.
That's
yeah.
funny.
We went to
Nice.
I remember
Cabo
that trip.
too.
I remember you going to Cabo.
Yeah.
That's
it
so
was
funny.
nice to,
It's a great
I was
escape
kind of
place.
escaping, but it was good to have best friends. And then friends her boys are like cousins to my boys.
That
so.
works out really nicely. And you hang out with her husband too, and it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
Some husbands, it's awkward.
Right. You really
I had
feel
a
like
few
third
friends
wheel.
where the husbands were just so cool about it. We
Yeah.
would make the sister wives jokes, and
We did too.
I was really impressed with I'm still impressed with these men that just, and the moms, my friends that were just, I was just along for the ride, and nobody really thought about it, honestly. And they loved my kids, and they loved me, and they were happy to have us along. And I'm so grateful for those families that allowed us to tag along and kind of
Same.
glom onto their trips.
Yeah.
And that's the same with Julie and Jeff, my sister and brother-in-law, because Toby was very close to her husband, and So it was hard for them too when we would travel together, because we all traveled together before he died. So it was nice to, be with them. And
Did
One
you
of the-
guys struggle? Sorry, go ahead, honey.
I was going to say, one of the couples we went with, the husband loved being on the Girl Gossip. So I don't.
hilarious.
And he was friends with my husband, and they were colleagues. But it's not that he didn't miss Oliver, but I think he liked being in there with the girls. It was
Yeah.
kind of funny, but
That's funny.
it worked out, thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And that's something that people don't really think about as the years go by. Like in the beginning, everyone is thinking about how they can help and what they can do. But as time goes by, nobody's necessarily considering, oh, let's invite Whitney and her crew to go with us. Because I don't know about you guys, but I get overwhelmed with the planning of
yes,
things.
absolutely.
So it would just be so amazing to just tag along as a follower
Yeah.
and not have to think about anything really and just tag along, But
I always used to look at Keira and think how amazing she is. Like 3 kids, she would do these amazing trips. And I was like, I'm exhausted just thinking about the travel to get myself over there, let
Right.
alone that she would have all these things planned. And I was like, she's got more energy than I have. That's just
I don't
clear.
even think I have that energy anymore. I had it back then. Now I just want to go sit on a beach and do absolutely nothing.
yeah,
But a big part of it too for me was being somewhere really beautiful. Like I really wanted to be, somewhere with a view. I wanted to kind of get out of the city and kind of be inspired in nature and kind of have those kinds of trips too. I found that kind of healing for me. And I had a lot of moments, particularly at the beach, I guess, where I felt connected to Frank in nature. Whether it was at the ocean or it was on a hike or something like that. That also kind of gave me comfort. For whatever reason, for me, in nature is kind of when I felt him.
sure.
And I think maybe some of it was just the quiet, the distractions, fewer distractions, and just having that ability to kind of think clearly and have some quiet time and think about him. And
It's
so,
nice
Yeah.
now to have that, but early on, I didn't like it. I wanted things to be just busy because
You didn't want to be alone
the
with your
quiet
thoughts.
was like, oh God, I'm doing that at home. I mean,
Oh, right.
did y'all ever think about the early days, like when you came home from a long trip? The worst.
There's
Coming
a
home to
down-
an empty house.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, because he used to pick us up at the airport or because Ryder and I did a lot of traveling by ourselves because he was working so much. So he called me the stay on the plane mom. So we went a lot of times because he couldn't go. So I wanted my kid to, travel.
Sure.
But coming home and nobody's there, it's hard.
And then you have to get acclimated back into the routine. And my bag is still,
Do all the laundry.
yeah, no laundry has been done. My suitcase is still just sitting in the middle of my
Ask
floor.
Holly's person. You'll have to explain that, Holly, probably.
Oh, yeah. What person?
One of her friends did your laundry right after your husband died or something?
Yes, we were in the hospital
Oh, right.
with Zach, and when I got home, I realized. Well, it took me a few days probably to realize the laundry had been done, meaning all Toby's clothes and pillowcase had
Didn't have a smell.
washed.
I still have Frank's dirty laundry. I know that's so weird.
No, it
but
isn't.
Where
That
it-
makes sense.
Where is it?
It's in my closet. He'd been on a trip, and he still had his suitcase was unpacked in the hallway. When we had the accident, it was still there. Unfortunately, somebody just brought it up and they didn't do anything with it. And I still have the clothes from the suitcase from his New York trip.
Yeah, I think I was just smelling Hunter's clothes the other day. You guys, I've already said this. I've moved homes since Hunter died, and I moved all of his clothes from one closet to the next closet, and they're all in there. And today, one of my kids went in there. He was like, "I'm just going to go into Dad's closet and see if there's anything in there." And
Get
I
a
was
hoodie.
like, "Awesome, yeah." And that
love
was
that.
kind of my
I love
thought.
that.
Yeah, that was my thought when I was keeping it. But some days I go in there and stick my nose
It's
in there.
good. Zach
it's
had
okay.
asked me. I have a drawer with 2 drawers that I kept with Toby's clothes, like T-shirts, just things that had some kind of meaning.
Yeah.
And Zach's been like, can I go through Dad's T-shirts? And I was like, sure.
My kids all have
I love
some of
that.
Frank's T-shirts. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. They
Yeah,
all
both
have
my
some
boys do
things.
too, yeah.
Ryder's been wearing
but
a lot
I think
of
the
his.
smell is gone. For me, I think
It
the smell
is.
is gone.
I didn't smell anything, but
Can I tell y'all
I
something
tried.
really weird?
This is such a weird conversation.
I was cleaning out
Back to
Oliver.
vacations.
I was cleaning out my closet,
Yeah.
Anyway, Eminem. I was cleaning out Ryder's closet and I opened up and a waft of smell. It was Oliver's. It was weird. I had
no, that
never
was actually
I had-
Oliver saying hi.
Well, I don't usually hug on my kid that much because at this age he doesn't really like it.
Right.
But I was opening up his closet
recently?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And I went, oh my God, you guys smell alike. It's so strange.
Wow.
And it's not a
That's really
cologne
cool.
because Ryder
Yes.
doesn't wear cologne. He doesn't like it.
Does
His
he
dad
use the same
would.
like body wash?
No.
But honestly, that's
because
not
Oliver
unusual.
probably didn't use Axe.
or Old Spice. But that actually, that is not unusual as a sign. They will bring smells back in. So maybe it was actually Oliver and not, because do you still smell Oliver when you're hugging on him or?
No, not a.
It was
that's
just this
why it
one
was so
time.
weird. I was
Yeah.
like, because he's
It's a sign.
now he
It
does
was.
he does have some of Oliver's clothes in there, but they had been dry cleaned.
Right.
So I was like, what was that? That was just really weird.
Ooh, well, maybe I'll go smell around my closet later.
Yeah.
I have a question that might be helpful to others. I had a real issue with going back to places like you brought up earlier, back to places where I'd been.
Yeah, with
where
the
I've been
memory.
with Frank, and the kids, like Cape Cod was one, like our block in New York City where we lived. That really I found very hard to go back to places that I had been with him for a while. I feel like
Yes.
I'm starting to do that more now. But so all of the trips, all the things that I started doing with my kids were just completely different things, like places that we had not been as a family, because I tried it one year on his birthday. We gathered in Cape May, New Jersey, which was a place that we always went with the kids. And his family came, his sister and her kids and his parents, and we celebrated the birthday. And I was in like this deep, deep depression the entire time we were there. And
Did you know why, or you figured it out later?
I kind of figured it out later. A part of it too was being around his family was hard for me. His dad, he and his dad kind of sound alike. Being around his family without him was really difficult. So I think it was a combination. I mean, I love them, but it was a combination of being around his family without him and being in this place that we used to vacation year after year when the kids were little, playing on the beach, going to the restaurants, walking the town. And so then after that, I kind of was like, all right, I got to just pick some places that I've never been and started.
I do think it's easier.
It was way easier for me.
I was not. I'm so glad you brought that up because I was expecting it when we went back to California. And literally, we had a trip planned the week after he died. We were going back to California for the kids. Their school would always have a fair, and we were going to go back for it. I went ahead and took them because I'm like, why? You know what? I'm just going to sit home. Like, let's just go. And I was prepared for that. But when I went to New York, a friend of mine had invited me to meet her in New York. She was there on business and I could just stay with her and stuff. And so I took her up on it. And when I got there, I was not prepared. And we lived in Connecticut. So I think if I had been going to Connecticut, I would be like, okay, I might need to prepare myself for this.
Yeah.
But when I walked, down the street in New York, literally, it was one of those moments where the tears are just falling. I'm not even making a sound. I'm not even making the cry face. It's just literal waterfall because I was in this city without him and I was not prepared. It took me to my knees,
I don't
honestly.
know that you can be. Like Keira said, when we went to Germany, Ryder was just turned 7. It was their first trip together to go see his family over there. And I don't speak the language very well. I've had 3 years, but it's miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, most of them speak English in Hamburg. But anyway, we got over there, we visited with them, and then we left. Well, we waited at the airport for 5 hours and realized the captain came out and he said, unfortunately, I've timed out. So they made us go to a hotel. Well, everybody would think, oh, why didn't you call your relatives? Well, my father-in-law, who was alive at the time, doesn't speak very good English, and he doesn't drive into the city.
Right.
He lives on the outskirts of Hamburg. So, and then my sister-in-law and brother-in-law had just gone on vacation. So Ryder and I were sent to a hotel, and I didn't like the area that was in, but we still ended up in like the red light district of Hamburg.
Oh, wow.
So here we are in this weird hotel, and it just felt scary. And I had this 7-year-old child with me, and there was no restaurant open at the time, so we had to go out into the city to go get food. And we're screaming American. And don't forget 9/11, Al-Qaeda. Where were they all stationed? Hamburg.
Right.
So, all that was going through my mind. I know you guys feel that way, but trauma, everything is, I'm sure Al-Qaeda is coming to get us. I'm sure that we have Americans stamped on our head. You make everything so much worse than it has to be, but that's how the brain works when you've been traumatized. Everything's dire.
It creates this fight or flight response in situations where there doesn't need to be one. So,
and the calm one was Oliver.
Right.
So that was the problem with him gone, and then it ramped up to the nth degree, and it was a miserable trip. And my poor son, he just saw me come undone. I was like, here I am in a country.
That was only like a year after, right?
It wasn't even a year.
Oh,
and you're in a foreign country, and I don't speak the language well. And, Americans, I don't know that they love us. Right. So, and I didn't have my husband as the German with me to kind of bridge that.
I feel like you and Ryder look German, though. I feel like if you hadn't maybe opened your mouth, you would just blend right in.
Meine Deutsch ist nicht
you
gut.
You guys are blondie blondes.
Scheiße.
I don't know. I would tell people to, I guess my advice would be, if you're going to go back to those places. And for me, I want to go back to those places because I want to take my kids to those places.
Of course.
Like going to London. I knew this was a trip that had been planned in my head before Hunter died. We were going to do that together with the kids at some point.
Yeah.
And I was really nervous about doing it alone. So I was going to make sure that I had somebody, I was going to tag along with another family member and her family so that I could do this with someone. And then it just ended up where Hunter's brother was wanting to take the kids over for his 50th, and it just worked out. So I had Hunter's brother with me, and I was prepared. But sometimes I'll go, and I don't know if you get this sometimes, Lacey, but I'll go to the LA airport where we lived. It's just the airport. But sometimes I get very teary in the airport because when we would travel, that's the airport that we would be going out of, or we would be picking him up from the airport after a business trip. It was a weird connection to him.
You never know what's going to trigger. I think that's the problem, like with trauma and grief. I also have the same. Frank and I lived in New York City. We actually lived in the West Village during 9/11. I used to go back to see friends and family with the kids every year after he passed away, and I would avoid the street that we lived on. I wouldn't go. And I remember my mom saying, you haven't taken the kids by your apartment, or, Aislinn lived there. And I just couldn't even go on the block for a really, really long time. And, I think these things just take time. I think you just have to give yourself, the grace to tackle it when you're ready. And definitely for me, New York has always been a seriously difficult place.
I can imagine that. Did you
I
go
love
back to
that
San
place,
Francisco at all?
Yeah, mine is San Francisco. And the first time I went back was, 4 months maybe after he died. And I went back for my friend's birthday, and I got off the plane, and it was like, okay, they've since remodeled the airport, but 6 years ago, it was the same airport that I remember. When we moved, we sat in that same area of the airport I was pregnant with 3-year-old, with our cats.
Oh my God.
And it was like the same terminal. And I got off the plane and I was like, just started crying. But then I went back, and they have a new terminal now, so it's not the same. It's remodeled or new or
But I
whatever.
will say, the more I do it, the less painful. Like I'm not, I haven't been back to New York too many times, but because we lived in Connecticut for so long, I have friends. So I do go in a couple, I've been back a couple of times since that first time. And I'll get a little twinge. Like, that's the one thing, because we moved here. We didn't live in Austin for most of our married life. So the memories that I have of Hunter and I as a couple in Austin are college memories. For some reason, those don't make me sad. I guess because it's so far away that it just brings me joy. Mm-hmm. If I lived, I'm grateful in a way that that we moved when we did, and he died here. I don't have a lot of triggers in the city.
Oh, well, that's how we met, was here. He moved here from Hamburg, and I had moved here from California, and that's how we met. We met 3 months in. And so, I didn't. But this is a funny story. I was going to head to LA this summer just for, I usually take a week or something and go. And I love to stay at the Lowe's, Santa Monica, because it's right there at the ocean. And that's where Oliver and I used to stay. So I've gotten through that, obviously, because I stay there all the time. But the first couple of times was terrible. Well, I looked it up. It's no longer.
Oh, they got rid of it?
Another
the place that we went?
Yes. Another company bought it. And so they laid off those people for, I think they said 9 or 10 months. So it's supposedly going to be more beautiful and this, that, and the other. But
the 4 of us are going when it reopens.
Yeah.
That would be a fun trip.
I just love, you and I stayed there. We went to Will and Grace.
Fun. We did.
Shout out to Eric McCormack. He brought us back to his trailer.
That's so fun.
We had invited Holly and she couldn't go. And that was before I knew you.
It was so early for me. I mean,
it
was hard. Wasn't ready to leave my boys yet.
I totally get
but
that.
I remember loving that hotel, and we sat out at the fire pit, and I passed out on the pool recliner in the middle of the day, and you were like, this woman is tired.
It was funny because she's such a go, go, go person, and literally by the time we checked in, and she said, I'm just going to lie down on the chaise outside by the pool, and she was gone within warp speed. So I said, cocktails. And so the guy brought over, I just sat there and nibbled on something and had a drink and waited for her to wake up. Poor thing. She was exhausted.
You passed out. Yeah, I was exhausted. Just getting out of town for me, with travel, getting out of town is so much work. With the kids and the dogs I used to hassle Frank about it because we would go on vacation and I would pack myself and all 3 children.
Of course.
And he would literally just kind of roll in.
Roll up his underwear.
I think we fought about it once. I was like, because I was frustrated. We were getting ready to go on a trip. And I was like, and all you have to do is pack your little man bag with your 4 pairs of shorts and your underwear and your socks. And that's it. You don't have to do anything else. It's just your dude stuff and your little job kit. And I'm over here literally each kid has a rain jacket. Each child has 3 swimsuits. Each child has their medication. I was just you and your and it became a joke. I'm you and your man suitcase. It's just you and yourself packing your stuff.
I have a funny story. Thinking of your man suitcase. So last week, my boys went up to see my mom and my sister, and I'm like, pack yourself, get ready. And I get home, and I was like, why is Zach's suitcase here? And he texted me, and he said, I forgot my clothes, but I remembered everything else.
That is so cute.
That is hilarious.
I let go. I let him pack on his own now.
Well, and I think, now that we have to travel alone, yeah, you have to. I think what we're kind of demonstrating here is letting go, not just of expectations, but depending on the age of your kid, let them handle their stuff. I forgot a bra. I was only in charge of my own packing this time, and I didn't bring any bras.
Were very European.
Very European. Yeah. In a saggy sort of way. But But who cares? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So letting go of all those expectations and letting yourself relax. That was the other thing that I'm hearing from us, like whether it be falling asleep. Now, it depends on the age of your kids. But maybe when you're thinking about travel as a widow, you kind of find a way to give yourself a little bit of time alone, whether it be putting the kids in the hotel, camp, if or if you're staying with friends, asking them to, give you a half a day or something, because that big joke, right? Of like, if you're with your family, it's not a vacation, it's a trip. You're on a trip.
Exactly.
And when you don't have your
camps
kids.
for my youngest, like we would do Telluride, and then she couldn't handle like some of the harder hikes that the bigger kids could. And so I would do like a little day camp for her. And then I would have some time with the big kids. It's all about sort of finding balance and, figuring out what works, for you and your kids and your family, and having other families along really helps, because
all inclusives.
The big kids really do look out for the little kids. And I feel like when you're with other families, at least, I felt like those other big kids in the other families loved taking care of my little one.
Right.
And maybe my big kid and my family loved taking care of their little one because they weren't siblings. And so it all kind of worked because they would sort of swap out. And that's another tip that I would just share that really helped with me. It's like definitely having, those groups of kids, all different ages. Everybody just kind of wanders around together.
My kid would make a joke. Well, it wasn't a joke. He was actually saying it for real. Why do you think we would want to go on a trip with the people we already spend 24/7 with already? Like, what's fun about that? So yeah,
I think it'll
definitely
be different when yours are gone to college and they come back, because we did a big trip to a vacation.
I call it forced family time.
It was
me too. Forced family.
They
We call
wanted
it
to go.
forced family time.
They picked. We went to Maui. This was after Gabe's first year of college, and after 2020, we could finally travel. And just the three of us. That was like our first vacation, the three of us.
Mm-hmm.
And they were old enough to drive, so they could take the Jeep and go off, and I could lay by the pool. But it was a good vacation.
Well, and we're throwing out, for everybody listening, we're throwing out some really amazing destinations, but it can be something like going and visiting the grandparents or cousins,
or a staycation.
Just getting a hotel room at the local Hyatt and letting them swim in the pool. Especially in the beginning, I felt, and I think we've talked about this before, the need to get away.
Escape.
Like, especially, and we're going to do a whole episode on the firsts, but especially those firsts. I didn't want to be home. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to honor Hunter's birthday by going somewhere, or I'm going to honor our anniversary by taking us somewhere. And if you have the means to do something like that, however big or small the trip is, I think it's really important. It first of all created a little family unit when your unit was disrupted. And then it gives everybody a chance to kind of get out of that grief.
It's true. I did some staycations the first year.
Well, if you're in Austin, they do Resort Pass, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
$35, you can go to a myriad of great hotels.
Yes.
We need to do that.
We do.
know,
We
and
did
I love it.
one time. Holly and I
Get yourself
did.
a massage too. Go to the
I love
spa.
going to the
Yeah.
Fairmont. That's fun. They have some great drinks and good food, and also they have umbrellas for people like me who get burned.
Oh,
in
me too.
20 minutes.
Yes.
But I love being in their pool, and I've done it. Ryder and I've done it, bounced around the city, because the only thing we have is a little
great.
little pool that's neighborhood, and it's full of littles. So he's
Right.
like, I'm not going to because he's 18 now.
Kiddie pool.
But I can get him to go do that
He wants
because
to see some girls in bikinis.
you know what? Thank you for saying that, because that's the only way I'm getting him
That's
to go.
hilarious.
Because he doesn't like swimming and he doesn't like being in the sun. So that's how I'm getting him to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
his
Little
his
people
little
watching.
interest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is fun for us too.
Yeah.
I love to people watch.
I like to see who he thinks is cute. He doesn't necessarily tell me, but I can tell by what he's looking at.
Oh, that's funny. I do think it gets easier as they get older. If for me, if I let go of wanting them to like be as excited about everything as I am, like this last trip, it was a lot. Like you're up at 9 a.m. because you want to go to this museum or you want to do this. And sometimes they just wanted to sleep in and, or they didn't want to go to dinner. And my adult brain is like, I want to go to a nice dinner and I want to sit and have a glass of wine and hang out and, see.
I love the hotel room.
I know.
Yeah,
I
they
get
do.
frustrated when they want to sleep in because I'll be like, we're in Barcelona. We need to get out and see the sights. But I think back to when they were little and maybe I wanted to sleep in until 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And they're up at the crack like, hey. And Frank was much more of the morning person. So he would kind of get up when we were on vacation with the kids, get them something to eat. And then he would do some work. He would put them in front of a show and do some work. And so then I think, well, I kind of miss those days too, when they would get up. It's like you just always are nostalgic for what you don't have, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's definitely easier by contrast. So we every year would go visit friends in Martha's Vineyard. And now that they're big, it's just a totally different, scene. And it's so much easier. But there was this one year, probably the year after the Frank died, I wanted to go to the vineyard. My best friend rented a house and invited us. And they're Keira's godparents. And this trip ended up being, we had gotten this therapy dog too, that the kids insisted on bringing the therapy dog. So I'm like, okay, Lacey likes to make fun of my therapy dog because she looks
Which dog
homeless.
is your therapy dog?
Gramercy.
He looks like
She looks homeless. Like she belongs to
She's
a
the one
homeless
that
person.
like-
she's been in a
on the wall.
nuclear.
I don't know if I
Explosion.
took the mini Aussie or if I. We only had Gramercy. After the accident, my kids were grieving. A sweet friend was like, we have to get you this dog. My dad was
One more thing to take care of.
living with me and was like, hell no, we are
Right.
not doing this. And then my friend Brittany, who I adore, just barreled on through. And she finds this dog who, they had been a rescue. Anyway, long story short, she's the sweetest thing, but she's definitely not a designer dog.
But she gets to travel.
So, but that year, the kids are like, we have to take Gramercy to the vineyard. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to Martha's Vineyard, but
It's not easy to get to.
it is like planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
And we would sort of fly to my parents in D.C., spend some time there, drive up through Montclair, New Jersey, where we used to live, see people there, and then drive to Woods Hole in Cape Cod, and you had to book the ferry, and it's just like this whole thing. And so that year, we had the dog with us. So she flew on the plane with us because she was supposed to, she had papers, and she was allowed to be on the plane. And so I'm like, oh, this will be great. She will sit with the kids. Particularly my son was really close with her. That dog sat on me.
So it
the
didn't have to be in
entire
a carrier. It was on. He was.
No, she
Oh
was
my
out of we had the vest and everything,
Yeah.
therapy vest. That dog sat on me the entire way. Then we get there. I have to rent a minivan for the drive. I think we flew to Newark, and then I saw family there, and then I rented the minivan to drive to the vineyard, which was like 6 or 7 hours. And then you get on the ferry with the car. I mean, it is a lot. And that year I was sick. I had just a raging cold or something. And so I'm driving with the kids and the dog, and my nose is just running, and I'm kind of like sneezing and itchy, and I can barely see the road. I mean, and that's just one of many adventures. We got there okay.
I want you to post a picture of your dog
That
on
trip.
Instagram.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah, the G-Dog.
Because it's just so sweet that it just is funny.
Because she's like cute, ugly. She is a sweetheart. But and then so we get to the vineyard, we do the whole thing, and the dog, speaking of the dog, got skunked.
Oh, no.
Terrible.
They allow skunks in Martha's
The dog
Vineyard?
got skunked, And that was a whole other ordeal. We had to, we had to bathe her.
In tomato juice?
We didn't have any tomato juice. Sorry,
Does that
I don't
even
know
work?
Who just has that on hand, but we only had
For my Bloody Mary.
I've
we only
never
had
even heard
you know,
that.
some kind of strawberry shampoo that the girls were using. And we just used the whole bottle of strawberry shampoo on the skunked dog. And the dog, let's just say the dog has never traveled since. That was her one and only.
That's a toddler on the trip with you.
That was her one and only
No,
trip.
thank you.
With us.
Kudos to you.
But again, I was like, the
kids.
kids have to have their therapy dog
Right.
with. And I mean, after that, I was like, she's staying home.
You're going to need therapy after taking that dog.
That was a lot. That was a lot. Getting to the vineyard was always a lot. There was a time where we were like in the ferry and it was pouring down rain in the ferry line and the kids were listening to something on the radio and the battery died and we're in the ferry line and all these cars behind us are like honking.
Oh my God.
And the guys had to run and jump the car. I mean, yeah, the vineyard.
And those things are so stressful just anyway. But then when you're dealing with it alone, my heart goes out to you. I don't know. Looking back,
pushed through. I pushed through
right. So
everything.
I was going to ask that was going to kind of be a question. Do you? How do I want to phrase this? Looking back, was it good that you took all of those trips and that they were stressful, or would you? I know that for all of us, we were told and we tell people, yeah, get out of town, go, if that's how you feel. But if you are just doing it because you think the kids have to have something, and I don't necessarily agree with that reason.
I think it's because I like to go.
Yeah.
One kind of nightmare trip we had, and it was actually just Gabe and I, because Zach was at camp, and my sister and brother-in-law were like, come see us. They were in Florida, and they're like, there's a room for you, and it was so nice. And I'm like, spontaneously, let's go. And we flew to Dallas, and our flight got canceled. So we had to spend the night in Dallas. And, it's late, and we had checked our bags. That's why I don't check bags anymore. So we're like at a hotel, which I ended up paying for because we were going to have to wait for them. They were going to give us a hotel, but it was going to be another hour or whatever. And so I'm like in the hotel, and I just put the robe on and then got up and put my same clothes back on. But it was worth it. Once we got there, we were at the beach, and but it was hard, doing it as a single parent.
Yeah.
You don't want to
travel is just hard in general now. There seems to be a lot of flight delays and a lot of issues. But
you don't want to take the path of least resistance, though. So I don't look back on any of it and regret it. I think the only thing I tell myself is, like what Ryder said, just enjoy it more and not But that's just kind of how we do. I think when tragedy strikes, and especially in the first years. I wanted everything to look the same. Yeah. I mean, even back to, I remember right after Oliver died, he used to brush his teeth with Ryder. And Ryder goes, I don't have to do it now because he's not here. And he threw the toothbrush. And I said, oh, but you do. And I gave it to him, and we did it together. And then from then on, I said, I think that's what triggered me to, everything had to be the same.
And you have to adapt. I mean, the reason we were still going to the vineyard is because the kids loved it. Our dear friends, were there with us, and Thomas actually wrote about that in one of his college essays, being kind of a constant in his life. Also, they took my kids after the accident. When Keira and I were still in the hospital, they took my kids to the vineyard, my big kids. And so I think that was a place for comfort. But yeah, I mean, I pushed through so many, difficult journeys getting there from Austin. I mean, because I just wanted to have that consistency for my kids, for sure.
And it's always worth it once you're there.
It's always worth it when you get there. The vineyard's really pretty.
Here's a question for you guys, because I didn't have my kids were a little bit older, and we had traveled to Mexico, being in California and Texas, that's an easy trip to take, and you feel like you're in an amazing place. But several years after Hunter died, I took them to Belize, and that was a nightmare it was terrible. We only stayed like 2 days.
I believe it.
Our little phrase is Belize in one day is the only way. Because again, a friend of mine had a hotel on one of the keys and he had offered it up and he was like, you just have to get here and then everything is taken care of. And that sounded really great.
Yeah.
It was terrible. But if you saw my Instagram, you would think we would have been having an amazing time.
Well, London, the same. I thought it looked amazing.
No, London was good. It was Paris where the wheels fell off.
It was France where things fell apart.
But in Belize, when I got off the flight, I was asked they asked me where the husband was, where the father was. And I was like, he's dead. And they were like, prove it. Have y'all had those experiences where, especially, Lacey and Keira with very small kids, did you know that you needed the death certificate to travel?
Well, it wasn't that. It was getting Ryder's a German citizen and an American citizen. He has dual citizenship. Like going to the passport place in Houston, the lady there, I gave her all of the documents and, because you have to file those within the first year. If you don't file it within the first year, you don't get it. Mm-hmm. So Oliver had done all that and he was always very, he was an engineer. So he's very, everything was all well done. Yeah. And I don't speak German. So I was like, oh gosh, are these the right ones? So I kind of was winging it. But death certificate, all of those things. And then when we got to Germany, that crossed my mind. I started panicking that because she gave me such a hard time in Houston.
Right.
Very difficult. She said the photo wasn't right.
I had a Xerox for a long time in my wallet.
Xerox. Who says Xerox?
Oh my gosh, I know that makes me sound so old.
That's like when
maybe I am your grandma's widow.
You are. I know we're not our grandma's widow.
I don't remember.
I had a copy in my wallet for a long time because I needed it for almost everything that was.
No one told me that
during
and
that time.
I had traveled.
I remember we went to Mexico
I was
summer after.
I was never.
I don't remember, but
questioned.
maybe I did have it. I don't remember.
I was totally taken off guard. It's during COVID. We had this long flight. It was stressful with like the COVID test because remember you had to take it 3 days prior, and we're literally on our way to the airport, and I'm still waiting for the test results, totally stressed. And then I'm with 3 teens. One of them really hated me at the time.
They're worried you're going to escape with the kids.
They think that you're going to, and it does happen. I've seen the Lifetime movies.
Well, coming back from Hamburg is where I really thought about it because I'm the American taking a dual citizen back to the U.S. and he's not with me. And so this is weird probably to you guys, but I had photocopied almost all like serious documents because I have a tendency to lose
photocopied or
Xerox.
Yeah. Did you Xerox it though?
I took a photo on my iPhone instead of my flip phone. I have all of that, Social Security cards, all of that on.
So that's a good tip. So that's a great tip because I am standing in Belize at the passport counter with my 3 kids after this travel day from hell. And little did I know it was just the beginning of the travel hell. But anyway, and I am scrolling through emails trying to find, because I knew that I had sent his death certificate through email at some point. But this was, 2020? And he died in 2018. Is that right? 2018? 2017? 2017. Oh my gosh.
Let me remind you when your husband died.
That is terrible. Anyway.
I have no idea when your husband died.
How come, Keira?
I just knew because it was the same year as Toby.
No, it's fine. I should know that. I need to get my head in the game. I'm jet lagged. Anyway, now I forgot what I was saying. Oh, so I'm sitting there. Think about all of the emails that you're scrolling through, and then I'm wearing a mask. I'm crying, of course, trying to find proof. I think the lady just felt sorry for me. I finally found something and just kind of showed it.
They act so badly. Do you really
I was
think
like,
that
please,
I'm trying
I
to
don't
take
want
these
them.
kids?
Leave them here.
Start acting up, kids.
I
Start acting up.
know. I did. It crossed my mind on this last trip, but they're all 17, 18, 20, so nobody's going to think I'm...
Nobody's stealing teenagers.
Right.
No.
No. We're trying
just
to
the
leave
cute
them.
ones.
Oh, man.
Well, they're
Just the
legal
littles.
now, so that makes it a lot easier.
But I do like what you said, Lacey. Have a picture of it, and you can just keep it on.
Of
Make an
everything.
album on your
Yeah.
photo.
I have
section.
I have the medical card, and I don't have the death
Medical
certificate.
card.
You know, driver's
Insurance?
license.
Insurance card,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
health insurance.
Driver's license good because
Yeah.
if you forget to go, if you go to the airport, like one of my friends, Sujatha, sorry, her son went to the airport and didn't have his
Driver's-
ID, and they took it. They took
that's
took
good.
that.
Really?
Yeah,
They took the photo?
They took the photo copy of that,
That
which
surprises me.
it does me too. But hey, that's what she said happened.
My
Thank
son is in
Good to
Italy
know.
right now, and I printed out like 10 copies of the passport, the
that's a good
driver's
idea.
license, the insurance card, everything. And I just said, stick it in. He's got like a backpack. And I'm like, just stick a copy in different areas and different things and
Always scary.
in your shorts and in your, I don't
need
know,
to
in
talk
your,
about that
in your underwear.
offline.
And I just like have a million different copies and on your phone.
Along with the other things you stuffed into his
Right.
backpack.
I did tell him to take a couple of those, and he
you don't want an Italian baby?
He almost threw up, and I said, "Hey, I have to play mom and dad. You're going to a foreign country. Do you want to be looking for, a
for
condom
you.
like while you're
Yeah,
in
100%.
Italy? Like,
That's
so
great.
he was
All
like,
right.
Mom." I'm like,
So I guess what would you let's kind of wrap it up.
words of wisdom for
Again
travel.
with the wrap it up and
Roll with
condom
it.
talking. Yeah, what do we want to end with that people carry with them? What did you just say, Keira?
Just roll with it. I mean, and I just told my son this as he's going off on this trip. I said, everything's not going to go according to plan. There's going to be, delayed or canceled trains, or maybe something gets lost, or you have trouble with, the housing or whatever it is. I said, you gotta roll with it. You gotta
Limit
think on your feet.
expectations.
Yeah, limit your expectations, roll with it. Photocopy or Xerox or fax it to yourself.
Yeah. Get out your BlackBerry.
Important
Make
documents.
some notes.
Yeah. And be aware of you will probably be triggered. There will be moments on the trip where you feel the grief, whether it's because you're feeling very alone or you're appreciating what you're doing and you wish that your partner was with you.
Or you see those families on the beach in Florida, Rosemary Beach or something, and their
Yes.
whole families are getting their photos taken. And
Yes.
you're
All
like,
in white.
well,
They're all in
We had one in the
matching.
background.
me and my son over here like doing a selfie. So,
Yeah, and remember that to give yourself a little bit of time to have a vacation on this trip, whether it be a bottle of wine out on the patio or in the bathtub, or leaving the
Yeah.
kids
Or a
if they're
street
old
party.
enough. Or a
Recruit your
street
friends,
party.
recruit your people, get your friends involved. Say, hey, what are you guys doing for spring break? And then 9 times out of 10, they want,
They want
other
people.
people.
Yeah,
I
they
remember
do.
one of the husbands was like, I love it when Keira comes because I don't have to go shopping with my wife. Like, she'll go shopping with her.
Yeah, you're a buffer.
Like, he got
true.
to get out of all the girly, she'll go to yoga with her and all the girly stuff and it's taken care of. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the trip of a lifetime. It can be a night at the local hotel so that you can have the pool. So that because it is on us now to be the entertainer, to be the protector, the provider, all of it. So it's nice if you can just take a break and swim in the pool,
Yeah.
drink some wine.
It's okay to keep it simple.
and on
That's
that
right.
note, let's do a resort pass soon.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm in, for sure.
Me too.
Boom.